In November 1992, Rhonda Kay, a woman aged 30, mysteriously disappears in Newbury, England. The police are searching, investigating, but they are not finding anything. Only 7 years later, thanks to a persistent sister and a determined detective, the truth comes to light. What is up, guys? How are you doing? Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video, I am going to talk about the Rhonda Kay case. Rhonda Kay was 30 years old at the time, and according to people close to her, she was really happy with her life. Born in the USA, she resided in the town of Newburgh, located in Berkshire, England, together with her spouse Nicholas Kay and their 2 children, a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. Rhonda and Nicholas were managing a daycare together that they set up in their own home. Besides, in order to make some extra money, they would rent out some rooms in their residence to people who were looking for a cheap place to stay. Despite the couple, who appeared to have a flawless relationship to external observers, the reality is that they were experiencing certain disagreements. This all began after Rhonda discovered some of Nicholas's betrayals, which truly shook up their relationship in a profound way. However, everything became even more dire in November of 1992, subsequent to Rhonda once again encountering her husband's unfaithfulness. Rhonda caught Nicholas in bed with a 29-year-old woman named Karen Scott. Karen was a tenant of the couple who were staying in one of the rooms that they had rented. Rhonda was devastated, particularly because, unlike her husband's other betrayals, this time she caught him red-handed. With that, Rhonda made a decision. She would not forgive Nicholas anymore and decided to move on with her life without him. She had a conversation with Karen, who is currently Nicholas's mistress, and politely requested that she leave her house immediately. The very next day, she looked for a lawyer to file for divorce, intending to start the legal process. On that very same day, she spoke to her sister, a woman named Rochelle Coates, and informed her that this time she would move forward with her life, and Nicholas with his. 2 days later, Nicholas called his sister-in-law Rochelle and told her that he had made plans to have lunch with Rhonda, but when he went down to the kitchen of the house, she wasn't there. He mentioned that she abruptly vanished without a trace. Rochelle asked her brother-in-law, "What do you mean? What was that story?" Nicholas claimed that it was likely that Rhonda had ditched her family. That was really weird. Rhonda had left her car at the front door, as well as all her personal belongings inside the house. In addition, there was no activity detected in her bank accounts, and no one had witnessed Rhonda leaving the house premises. That did not make any sense. If Rhonda had truly run away, she would require a ride, documents, and of course money to support herself during her escape. Those who were closest to her, such as her sister Rochelle, had no doubt that she would never abandon her children. The most likely hypothesis that everyone was talking about was that someone had made Rhonda disappear against her will. Upon receiving information about Rhonda's disappearance, the authorities promptly initiated the search operation. They looked in a nearby canal, at the family's house, and in the surrounding areas of the neighborhood, but nothing was found. Therefore, the police, in an effort to obtain information, requested assistance from the media to disseminate information regarding Rhonda's disappearance. Later, both Nicholas and Rochelle conducted interviews and shared their perspectives on the case. In one of these interviews, Nicholas mentioned the following: "Every now and then, kids inquire about the location of their mom. I respond that she went away, but she is safe. This is the truth. She knows that the breakup is final. I know the separation is final, but for the sake of the kids, I just want someone to tell me that she's doing okay." According to the police, throughout the investigation and searches, Nicholas has been cooperative. He made himself accessible to do everything within his capability to assist the police in locating the mother of his children. Nicholas always stuck to the same version of events and kept saying he believed that Rhonda would come back home at any moment. Still, the suspicions regarding Nicholas were high. The circumstances in which Rhonda disappeared created the impression that he possessed more knowledge than he was revealing. The fact that she vanished immediately after the revelation of yet another act of unfaithfulness from her spouse, the fact that she abandoned all her possessions, and most importantly, the fact that she deserted her 2 children, were circumstances that lacked logical explanation. Later, in a new interview about the case, journalist Roger Sawyer asked the question that everyone wanted to ask Nicholas, but didn't have the guts to. Roger went directly to the point and inquired of Nicholas whether he had taken the life of his wife. Nicholas hesitated for a few seconds until he provided a response. "What do you think?" Roger then said, "Please just provide a response to the question." Nicholas replied, "No, I did not take the life of my wife." Even though he answered negatively to that journalist's question, a lot of folks found it odd how Nicholas hesitated in the first few seconds, which only made people more suspicious of him. Rhonda's sister, Rochelle, later stated that it was at that precise moment when she became absolutely certain about the person who was responsible for her sister's sudden disappearance. However, despite all the suspicions surrounding Nicholas, up until that particular moment, there was no concrete evidence indicating that he was indeed responsible for the mysterious disappearance of his wife. A few days after his wife's appearance, Nicholas started a serious relationship with Carrie Scott, the same woman that Rhonda had caught with her husband in bed. Nicholas and Karen started living together in the house that he and Rhonda used to live in. The majority of Rhonda's things were sold by Nicholas, and what remained, he just burned. Certainly that raised even more suspicions. However, for the police, these actions were not sufficient evidence to conclusively confirm that Nicholas was guilty of any wrongdoing. A few months later, Nicholas and Karen got married and went on with their lives. It has been 7 years since any news about Rhonda's case has emerged. Throughout this period, no leads or witnesses have come forward, leaving the investigation into Rhonda Kay's disappearance unresolved. Rochelle never gave up on searching for her sister or attempting to discover what had occurred to her. The woman would contact the authorities on multiple occasions to inquire about the progress of the investigations, and also to ensure that the case was not being overlooked or forgotten. In the year 2000, Detective Trevor Davis took on the case of Rhonda Kay and made a promise to Rochelle. He stated he would do everything possible to determine what occurred to her sister, and that this might be his final case prior to retirement. But he would not cease his efforts until he uncovered the entire truth. However, all of this determination would be rendered useless if there was no evidence or any proof that was obtained, and Trevor Davis was fully aware of this fact. He also knew that according to all the information gathered over the years, Nicholas Kay was the only potential suspect. It was thinking about that Trevor had an idea. Just for general understanding, in cases like this, when there is no evidence to continue the investigations, the authorities have the approval to place bugs in the suspect's home. Trevor Davies then spoke to his superiors and asked them if he could use wiretaps as a last resort. Trevor's superiors consented, and agents placed several bugs in Nicholas Kay's home. Now Trevor and the agents would have to somehow get Nicholas and Karen to say something about Rhonda, and depending on what they said, the police would have a clue as to what could have happened to the woman. Trevor then had another idea. He asked Rochelle to call Nicholas and tell him that the police had found Rhonda's remains and that they were going to do DNA tests. Of course, that wasn't true, but Trevor believed that news like that would worry Nicholas and he would end up saying something compromising to Karen. On the morning of August 2nd, 2000, Rochelle called Nicholas and said the following.
"Hello, Nick. It's Rochelle. The police have been down to see me. They found some remains and have taken some DNA samples. I hope they get you this time, you bastard."
Upon hearing that, Nicholas freaked out, and immediately after Rochelle ended the call, he and Karen engaged in a highly compromising conversation. A conversation that was entirely recorded thanks to the bugs that the agents had planted in their house several days prior to the event.
What?
That was Rochelle.
What?
That was Rochelle.
What did she say? Hold on a minute.
Got her out of the plastic bag down on the water in Cirencester.
A bag? Oh, I bet they've done her fingerprints already.
It's been down there a long time.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it'll all be circumstantial though, won't it?
Oh, God.
I can't take this.
Yes, but putting it in a plastic bag looks suspicious. If they look in the bottom of the river, there's pebbles. The first thing you should have discussed it with me. I mean, I don't think you're telling me the truth. I don't think you use gloves.
Why wouldn't I use gloves?
You don't know it. They could have found slight forensic evidence in the van. They could have found slight forensic evidence on the walls in the bedroom as well.
No.
Have you heard about that light that picks up?
I had a hell of a job getting the carpet sorted. That Hoover, that thing, I must have been on it for over an hour. I must have done all of it.
Bloody Rochelle.
Sorry?
Bloody, bloody, bloody Rochelle.
2 days after Rochelle's call to Nicholas and his conversation with Carrie that incriminated him, the police concluded they had enough evidence to arrest the suspect. When taken into custody by the police, Nicholas was questioned about the chat he had with Carrie. He was surprised to learn that his house was bugged and that everything had been recorded. But Nicholas did not lose his composure, even though he showed surprise in front of the police. He said that he knew from the beginning that there were bugs in his house and that all the conversation he had with his new wife was arranged by them. A type of practical joke played on the authorities. Yes, that's what he said, whether you believe it or not. According to the police, Nicholas and Carrie took Rhonda's life and threw her into a nearby river. The cops then put together teams to try to locate what was left of the victim. They scoured about 80 square kilometers, but couldn't find anything. Nicholas's residence was also inspected, but similar to the searched region, no findings were discovered. He had indeed done a good cleaning on the place. In this way, the police were unable to gather concrete evidence against Nicholas and Karen, but even so, he was taken to trial. Karen hasn't been accused of anything because there's no physical evidence that she helped Nicholas with anything. Since the only thing the authorities had against Nicholas was the recording of his conversation with Carrie, at the end of his trial he was found guilty, but of a negligent crime, as if he didn't have the intention to commit it. With that, on May 1st, 2001, Nicholas Kay was sentenced to just 6 years in prison. Of course, that left a lot of people pissed off, since Nicholas's aggravation with Carrie, even though it wasn't considered definitive evidence, was practically a confession. Anyway, people had to suck it up, because 6 years in prison was the most the authorities could manage to punish Nicholas with the evidence they had. We can affirm that Rochelle's persistence and Detective Trevor Davis's determination played a pivotal role in ensuring a resolution for this case, even if it is not the anticipated resolution that many were expecting or hoping for. Based on sources, at present, Nicholas Kay is free and living his life in a normal manner without any restrictions, while Rhonda, her body was never found. Well, folks, that's it. Thanks a lot for watching me, and I'll see you in the next video.